Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with Mob Psycho 100. Last time around, we had Discord to become one, which was not about how Mob joined an Esper Discord group, but instead, it was actually more focused on Ritsu, who is still struggling with not having psychic powers and trying to find, I guess, fulfillment, really. And he also helped his shady school class president, that's what I'm looking for, helped him basically frame Onigawara for being a pervert when he's actually not. And he helped him, but he didn't enjoy that. It definitely started to weigh on him. And at the end, though, we did learn he does have some latent psychic powers, so isn't that interesting? And that's pretty much where we left it. Also, Dimple might be alive. Well, alive is sort of a relative term at this point, but you know what I mean. Anywho, so yeah, that was pretty much that. Like always, the reaction is down in the description and in the pinned comment for your viewing pleasure. So why don't we go ahead and jump right into this episode of Mob Psycho 100. Here we go.
If everyone is not special, maybe you can't be what you want to be. So let's no
You know, it's really interesting how this show, honestly, I feel like is handling sort of serious topics of adolescence while also being a really goofy show, you know? Like, Ritsu clearly knows what he's doing is wrong, and yet he does enjoy it, and he says, it's that freedom, he knows what he's doing, he's strayed from the right path, but there's nothing he can do about it now. He's done something unforgivable, he has been the fool, but now there's nothing that can save him, not a damn thing that he can do about it. And also, he's being possessed by a little green sperm named Dimple. That's the other side of this. That's the other side of the story. Oh, that's the other side of the story. Oh my god, sorry. My shoulder is killing me today, so I'm slightly massaging it while I talk. So yeah, white tea poison. Is there more meaning behind the name, or is that just I don't know, where did that name... Oh, white tee, because he was wearing a white t-shirt, wasn't he? Because he was wearing the I guess the gym clothes, basically, that the Body Improvement Club wears, so... I guess that's it. But yeah, but everyone knows of him, the person who defeated Teruki. Which is interesting that, I guess because I'm assuming none of them could have ever defeated Teruki because they don't have psychic powers, So yeah. But, I guess now that it's the god has been brought down, it's well, why do you think you can take on the guy who brought down the god, Oh well, but yeah. Either way, but I like how Teruki has gone through. He's gone through a character. I mean, he remembers. He went through that with during his fight with Mob, and now he's looking at it. He's looking at Ritsu like, hey, you shouldn't be using your powers like this. You shouldn't hurt people with your powers. He knows that now. He had to learn the hard way, and it's looking like Ritsu might have to learn the hard way too. But that's going to be difficult for Mob, I think, because, I mean, he didn't even want to fight Teruki. He certainly is not going to want to fight his own brother. So yeah. But we did get, we basically got why, I guess what's happening with Ritsu is basically what could have happened to Mob, The fact that he's had his powers so long, he's grown up with these powers, means that he's had to repress his emotions and thus repress his power, Whereas Ritsu is kind of getting it all at once, and he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know to try to repress his powers, and so he's practically a 100% all the time. His powers and his emotions are starting to blend together and affect each other now. So that's a problem, and especially like if he had just had powers, that might have been one thing. But it's the fact that it's based on what he was doing with Kenzaki that, yeah, it's too much for him, and it's overwhelming him, So, but yeah, that was really, really interesting, and it definitely also, it also doesn't help that he's being, tutored basically by Dimple, because, I mean, again, for the faults of Reigen, the fact that he isn't psychic, although it does kind of make me question, I wonder if he does actually have spiritual power, because I didn't even put it into perspective that that's what Dimple has, because he is a spirit. So I'm almost wondering, but I don't know, but I mean, if he had spiritual power, wouldn't he use it? Or maybe it's that he has spiritual power, but he can't really use it because he's a human, Like, he would be incredible if he were dead, if he was actually a ghost, But, at the very least, because of that, he at least knows what he's talking about, But again, it just shows you that, the difference of mentors. You have Ritsu, who is now being mentored, basically, by Dimple, which is not a good thing. But then you look at Mob, who was mentored by Reigen, and it's like, well, Reigen knows what he's doing. Reigen is a good person, and he knows how to take care of Mob and how to, teach him about his powers, and he also knows how to deal with con men, which is amazing too, which, obviously Mob, he panicked, and then, he didn't call his parents, because he didn't want them to deal with that. So he instead panicked and called Reigen, but Reigen knew exactly what to do. But see, that's the thing again, is that, at the end, Mob was like, oh, I didn't do anything. I thought you passed the spirit onto them. And Reigen clearly was like, no, I thought you did that, So, I don't know. I guess maybe that ghost was real. Reigen just didn't care, It just didn't faze Reigen that much, And he just passed it on, basically. So, I don't know. But that was good. That was a good moment. But yeah, Reigen, I mean, he's such a good mentor to Mob, even if he is kind of a con man. But again, even the way he says it, it's like, a con man, they'll prey on someone's weaknesses. I don't think Reigen's doing that, I don't think Reigen's doing that. Yes, he is using Mob's powers to his, financial gain. But at the same time, it's like, I don't think he does play on weaknesses. Otherwise, Mob would be a whole lot more like Ritsu, Because Dimple is playing on the weaknesses that Ritsu has. Thus, Ritsu is in such a worse place than Mob is, So yeah. So that's interesting. And then just seeing all of that, Ritsu just losing it. But I mean, that's the thing, is that, I mean, I guess it's the difference, where, one will be overflowing with this newfound sense of power, and one will suffer because of it, Like, he feels that guilt, and it's playing into his powers, And yeah, I mean, and he needs to kind of let that out. But the interesting thing is, you could have this almost the exact same story without powers or ghosts or anything. You could have a boy who, falls into this terrible thing and just kind of falls into almost a depression or just a self-loathing, And then, yeah, he could go and pick fights. Now, would he be as successful? We don't know, but you could honestly have a very similar thing of, all this guilt and stuff playing on his emotions, even to where it's, he's not, wallowed up in sorrow per se, but it does affect him. And that's just really, really interesting. I like how this show is doing that, again, in a show that's otherwise kind of goofy, But that's really good. That's really good how the author was able to do that, you know? It's this sort of deconstruction of adolescence while also, I mean, being enjoyable to watch, you know? Which, honestly, I really appreciate stuff like that, because there will be shows where you watch it and it's just like, God, this is depressing, you know? Like, okay, maybe a good example, because it's something I've reacted to on the channel, but Mr. Robot, lot of heavy themes, lot of, you know, character conflict and everything in that, and it's all really, really good. Man, that show is hard to get through, you know? There's interesting stuff, definitely. There's definitely interesting stuff, but it's so hard to get through. Whereas, almost, like, you can have a lot of that same stuff while also still making it largely entertaining as well as thought-provoking. I think a good example of that could also be something like Better Call Saul. That's a really damn good character study, I think even better than Breaking Bad. But that is also still interesting, you know. You'll still have some of the witty humor of Saul Goodman, or Mike, or Kim, or whoever, or Lalo, or even, you know, some interesting cool stuff with Gus, you know. And that I feel like is sort of here, even though here, you know, instead of the sort of more, I guess, sort of adult humor, this goes for honestly a more adolescent humor, you know. It goes for teenage antics, and here's this, you know, club of do-nothings who just play video games. Here's this sort of goofy body improvement club, you know. Here are these delinquents that are very typical delinquents, you know. Here's this, you know, Slimer-looking dude named Dimple, you know. Here's this guy who doesn't really have powers, but he's really good at making you think he has powers, you know. And all this stuff, it's like there is a level of goofiness to this that sort of helps you through all of the more heavier stuff. And I definitely appreciate that. Because again, some shows don't let you have that. They're just like, no, heavy things. Here's some heavy things. It's the same, honestly, and I don't know. I don't know when the last time I brought this up. Maybe it was months ago. But that's also another problem I have with something like Daredevil. That shit is, like, depressing, you know? It's depressing, and there's nothing interesting there. On top, and Daredevil has so many other fucking problems. I hate that show. But then it'll get something interesting like The Punisher, who even when he is depressing, he's still interesting enough to hold you through it, you know? Something that helps you get you through the darker times. And I think a show definitely needs to strike that balance. So that, you know, Punisher, Jessica Jones definitely helps you with that, but yeah, I kind of prefer shows like that, even though some of that can be good. Maybe not Daredevil, that's actual dog shit, but and I know I'm gonna get all the Daredevil fanboys after me, and I don't really care anymore, but Mr. Robot was really good. Ooh, that is hard, you know? So I appreciate that. Yes, we're going to talk about some, you know, we're going to talk about some heavy stuff. Watching Ritsu go through this is pretty hard. It's pretty hard to get through this. But also, here comes, you know, Taruki with his giant friggin', you know, Doug Dimmadome wig, you know? And that is kind of funny, you know? And I like that. Even though, like, in a moment where there are, like, you know, interesting or heavier things happening, you do get something to help you along. So it's not so depressing, and I appreciate that. So this show, 7 episodes in, we're halfway through the season now, 7 episodes in, this show is freaking great. I love how good this show is. And yeah, and it's interesting too, having this sort of story arc about Ritsu as well, you know, which is good, you know, because we had a lot where it was pretty much just Mob, and then we got, I feel like that basically climaxed with Mob versus Taruki, you know? And now we have this Ritsu arc, basically. But I think that works because you can't... I don't know how to say this, but, like, Mob is a great character. Mob is also a reactionary character, you know? Where, you know, he does not actively seek things out. Ritsu is. But he's not actively seeking out conflict. Conflict keeps coming to him. and he's dealing with it. So now having this arc where, yes, he is going to be a part of this next episode, he's going to be dealing with this, trying to help his brother. But this was a good arc in here for Ritsu, you know? So I've definitely enjoyed this. This has been really, really good, and I'm excited to see where we are going next time. But that is basically it. With all that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist for all of my Mob Psycho 100 reactions, as well as another video you can go click on if you want. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.